Yes, so you touch on two things, financial literacy and access. Yeah? Yes, we share common needs. All of us need to transport some of our earnings sometime into the future to meet a future financial obligation, because all of us will take care of something in the future. And so in order to comfortably take care of something in the future, it makes sense to sort of plan for it, save for it, invest those savings. Yeah, so Xeno is really something that resulted from my personal experience, both personal and professional. Previously, I used to work for one of the largest investors across the East African region, that's the NSSF of Uganda. And that responsibility came with both deploying money across the East African region, but also helping the NSSF, the fund itself, figure out why is it investing this money? Why is it collecting this money from all the people that are working across the country? And when it does, what constraints should it operate within? What investment universe should it consider? And how should it allocate the money that is collecting across the investment universe? And then how should it measure success? Is success relative to the individual benchmarks, or is success measured relative to how that money actually helps a person fund their retirement? And so I left the NSSF. I worked for 4 years managing a portfolio of about $1.3 billion. And then I left the NSSF, went back to school to pursue a doctorate. I only managed 2 years in that doctorate.
Oh.
I only managed 2 years. But towards the tail end of those 2 years, my doctorate was in New York. So New York is the financial center of the world, literally. And so there's a fund that came to my university, I was in the applied math department, to recruit a team to build an automated investment platform. Now, let me pause there a little bit. To fund my university education, I used to consult for small retirement schemes, helping them to plan, helping them to invest, helping them to deploy the savings and then measure success for those investment programs. And so I exclusively used to advise only institutional investors, retirement schemes, pension funds, endowment funds as well. But through that process, I started getting approached by individuals saying, you know what, you've done this for the scheme, you've done this for the pension, but I have my own personal, the equivalent of, say, 10 million shillings or 5 million shillings, or even am I able to set aside 50,000, the equivalent of Kenya shillings, 50,000. I'd like to invest it. What should I do? Should I buy a one-year treasury bill? Should I do a fixed deposit at my friend's bank? Or should I buy a share of Safaricom? So all of those are valid asset classes, right? But, and you should all have all of them, but how do you decide how much goes in each of those assets? Because if you're investing and building up a port, more than likely you're not going to execute this just using one asset class, a series of asset classes. But then as an individual, how do you decide? Should it be a treasury bond, a treasury bill, a share of Safaricom, or is it KCB this time? It's so in seeking to give individuals a framework with which to decide which is which, you need to use some professional guidance. And so when I got approached, I realized I couldn't really advise individuals because I would leave school, come consult, to earn money to pay a very expensive rent in New York. And then if I'm tapped to advise an individual, they can't really pay the fees because it takes nearly the same amount of time, effort, and energy to advise an individual as it does an institution. But an institution can pay fees, advisory fees, but an individual. But So I used to turn those requests down. So one is sent to me, I say no, I say no, I said no so many times. Then when I was back in New York, when I was tapped to join a team to build out that investment platform, I did not join because the requirement was I drop out of school immediately and go and join the team. I could have done that if I was American, but I was an immigrant. I couldn't really do that. So, but what it did, so I did not join the team, but what it did, that episode planted an interesting idea in my head that back home, there's people that need this guidance, but I haven't really figured out how to give them this guidance inexpensively for them, but also in a way that you can deliver and reach a lot more people than the ones that you are approaching. So that was really how I said, okay, maybe this is one way that you can leverage technology, map out the entire process. Because what do you do when you're giving guidance? You first understand the circumstances. Somebody wants to invest, but in order to achieve what? So what is that goal? And then understand the person's circumstances. Then based on their circumstances, only then can you recommend, put some of your money in a unit trust fund, put some of your money in a fixed deposit, put some of your money in equities on the Nairobi Stock Exchange. So essentially that is how we started.
Wow, and that started in 2017?
2017, actually that was 2016. That was 2016, but we got, so once we conceived the idea, I had to get licensed in the industry, because you can't open your mouth if you to give anyone guidance, so help them buy a product if you're not specifically licensed. And so we got our first licenses in Uganda in 2017, and then we've gotten the ones in Kenya 2023, and we are also rolling up to go up and running in Nigeria as well with a similar set of licenses. I'll answer that in two ways. One is just taking our first customer. I'll take our first customer in Uganda, and I'll take our first customer in Kenya. Those are both profound stories. I love both of them. So the first customer in Uganda was a lady. So when we built this, it was a nice shiny interface with a if you know Xeno, or if you've looked at it, go on the app stores, any of the app stores, download or go to our website, myxeno.com. If we built this, and we thought this is going to be really taken up by millennials, Gen Zs, because they're tech savvy, and they will respond well to something delivered over a digital interface. But lo and behold, our first customer was a lady. She was 57 years old. Wow. Yes. Wow. She was 57 years old, and she'd just gotten her contract renewed, and she was due to retire when she's 63 years. But she was worried that she hadn't actually put away enough to fund her years in retirement. And she was just asking for a simple way to put away a little money consistently, safely, where she can see, in order to build up a retirement or add on to her retirement pot that she had. And voila, that lady was our first customer. I still have lunch with her every year. And she said that if she had access to such a product when she was 20, she would have been a billionaire many times over. So that's one. As our first customer in Kenya, we actually onboarded him last week. I met him at the Masai Mara. Went there went there with friends for, of course, to see the animals. He was one of the drivers, actually.
For real?
Yes, he was one of the drivers. And so he asked me, where are you from? I told him, just across the border. What are you doing here? I've come to see the animals. So what do you do when you're not seeing animals? Because I said, I help people plan, save, and invest. We build this interface that you can select a goal, set a target for it, and then it recommends how much you need to set away, to set aside every month in order to meet that target. And whatever you set aside is invested. And then once the time comes, you draw it down to meet that financial obligation that you have. So, whoa, this is something we could use here. I said, okay, when you're not driving people to go and see lions, dangerous lions, what do you do? Or when you do earn some money from this job that you're doing, how do you save? How do you invest? He said, I convert most of whatever I earn, I pile it up, then convert it to buy a cow. Okay, I said, so that's how you do, and that's a very valid way to do it. Yeah. People build up wealth that way. However, he said to me, the problem with that is when my child falls sick, and I need a little money to take her to the clinic, I can't really cut off one hoof of the car in order to take. And so it is relatively leaky. It doesn't meet the purpose. It's not as flexible for some of the financial obligations that I have, such as an emergency, such as taking a child. Said, okay. And I said, oh, we can help with that. Yeah. So some of your money, certainly you can invest it in cars and a farm. But everyone needs to build up an emergency fund, for example. While it needs to be invested, it should be invested in assets that you can easily convert into cash in order to meet that obligation. And by the way, it is not the only one. And so this was in February. And so I told him, we're just going through a regulatory process right now. And he said, you know what, once you clear those hurdles, I want to be the first customer.
How did that make you feel?
It made me feel that, you know what, this thing that we have put together over these years is impactful not only for CEOs, C-suite, highly educated. This is not to say, by the way, that gentleman is not highly educated. He is very literate. He's a very interesting gentleman, but he's But it doesn't exist in the context of a city. It exists far out there. But it shows us that the solution that we put together serves common needs that are common despite your social life, despite your economic level, so to speak. And so this is something that is so profound, and we are very excited to bring it to the Kenyan market. Yes, so you touch on two things: financial literacy and access. And so the way we sort of think about it, and we have observed over the years that yes, we share common needs. All of us need to transport some of our earnings sometime into the future to meet a future financial obligation, because all of us will take care of something in the future. And so in order to comfortably take care of something in the future, it makes sense to sort of plan for it, save for it, and then once you save for invest those savings, life is so much easier. So much easier. And so what we have found is, while those needs are common, sometimes they're not even well articulated even to us, right? And so what we do, just the process of signing up takes you through a journey that sort of narrows and forces you, okay, you want to invest. And so our value proposition is not really, we are going to help you buy stocks, we are going to help you buy international bonds or stocks on the New York Stock Exchange or Nairobi. That's not the value proposition. It goes back to, why are we doing this? Why are you interested in the first place, right? What do you want to achieve? And so by narrowing it and focusing it on the goal, you see a person actually shaking their head and saying, okay, this is something that I can do, and then giving that goal a target. Right? Oftentimes people start, I want to invest, but they don't have an objective they're driving towards, or even a structured way to reach that objective. So once you give it a target, giving it a recommended amount that you need to set aside. And so by just going through the journey, just the process of signing up actually allows you to go through a structured process of setting up and learning what is important when you get on the investment journey. So the user journey is built to deliver an education in a way that doesn't compare to anything that is present today. And it is very deliberate, it is very intentional. So just walking through that process, even if you don't make a deposit, of course we would like you to make a deposit, right? But even if you don't, you feel the value, you begin to use the value without necessarily paying for it. And so that was what I was talking about. How do I deliver that guidance, right? And then when it comes to acting on the guidance, of course, there's quite a bit of education that you need, but we are there throughout your investment journey. So we are in the journey business. We're not selling assets. We're not selling returns. We are in the journey business with you. And so we want you to learn along the way. And you're not going to learn this in 1 week, not even in 1 month, not even in 1 year. But we're there. So we have significant material on our platforms. We have videos, we have actual tutorials that we have put together to help. But then having that and sitting on a YouTube channel is not enough. You need to actually put it out in the market. So that's where we work with institutions, we work with individuals, anyone interested in, all right, let me narrow it down. There's financial literacy, but there's investment literacy. So financial literacy, how to open up a bank account. There's so many people who do that, But we sort of narrow what we are really good at, which is investment. So what we call it investment literacy. When you're thinking about investment, how should you think about it? What should you focus on? What are the first steps? What are the second steps? And how do you measure success? This is material that we have, and this is material that we've deliberately built into our user journey as you come on board with us to chase your financial goals. But what we have observed and what the feedback that people have given us, whether it is conclusive is for you to judge when you sort of corroborate this with actual user stories, is one, the focus of the investment program away from chasing high returns, away from chasing things that are not related to them. So the focus, and then two, the ability to customize a portfolio or a plan to a person's circumstances. And then three, the simplicity of access. Essentially, this is something you can wake up and make a deposit at 3 a.m. in the morning. This is something that you can wake up and check the progress relative to your objective at 6 p.m. in the evening, or 6 p.m. in the evening on Sunday, any day, you're able to see that. And so those three things, the ability to focus on what is important, the ability to customize, and the way we sort of see financial instruments, they're just tools we use. They're not the end in and of themselves. They're just tools we use to achieve our goal. So, and then simplifying that and abstracting all those layers to one, chasing the target and focusing on that as the prize and as the objective that you're setting this out.
How has it been like for you convincing these people, come on, you're moving from the traditional way of doing things, this is something you can access online and make a decision real time, real quick? So incidentally, that hasn't been an issue at all. And I don't know whether, I guess it is the year 2024. I guess it's the year 2024, But what we have been able to do is to really emphasize what's important. This does not work if there's no trust. This does not work if you don't know what you're talking about. This does not work if you don't meet your promise, if you don't meet your word, whether it is physically with a piece of paper that somebody has given you to sign, or it is delivered. The trust is really important, and building that trust. And the way we've gone about building it, of course, we say the low minimums, the minimum of 500 Kenya shillings to start investing, to start saving, to have access to professional investment guidance, to have access to a portfolio, not just of one fund. But that 500 shillings is not just goes in one fund, it's invested across. And so that is really to help us build the trust, to take away that fear that
this is digital. These guys, I've never seen them, I've never met them. But this is just a way, not just to ease entry, but also to start building that trust. You start slowly and you build it over time, and you see how these people behave, or this group behave, or this platform, how you're served, how you feel. And so that's really important, and this is what we will emphasize. For us, we're not really here to set up a new revenue line. We are not a big company with our name on the building and that wants to open up a new revenue line for their shareholders. No, we are here to solve actual problems that people face, and in speaking to those problems, designing for those problems, organizing ourselves to solve that problem. People have trusted us with more and more of their savings, whether they're in the Masai Mara or somewhere in Westlands or somewhere in Karen. That is what we speak to, and that is how we emphasize. So just building that relationship and showing that showing that transparency, regardless of where the person is. Our first customer in Uganda did not visit the office until 4 years later. Our first customer did not meet us in Nairobi. So that speaks to the human spirit.
Was it by word of mouth, you think?
So for both cases, I met them in person.
And then you pitched the idea.
And this is something that you would have to do. I don't for one believe that you can wholly hide behind a keyboard and win people's hearts. Absolutely you can. These people that, but that's not what we are leading with. We're leading with, if somebody met us can we get them to do this? And we've been able to. And then we leverage technology to do this for a lot more people than we would otherwise be able to meet one-on-one. Let me give you, unless you already know the numbers, let me give you an example. When we started in Uganda in 2017, there were only 2,300 accounts. You have to write it down. 2,300 accounts. And there were 4 fund managers over there. All of them had names plastered on the buildings in which they operate from. Today, Just Xeno has over 100,000.
Wow. In a span of how long?
There's in the span of 6 years.
6 years.
Over 100,000. And we still don't have a name on the building.
Wow.
Yep. So that's just to show you the scale of what you can do. But importantly as well, we are in Africa. At least we are operating in Uganda, Kenya, Nigeria, Zambia. We're operating in Africa, right? In Africa, the structure of our societies is that when you help somebody organize their finances, you're not just helping one person. That person has a spouse or girlfriend or boyfriend. Between the two of them, there's a mom, there's a parent, there's a dad, there's an uncle that they are responsible for. So those are nearly at least a minimum of 2 people, right? But between the 2 of them, there is a child, whether that child is their own or their nephew or their niece or somebody's, right? So those are easily 3 people. And so when you put together that multiplier effect, just helping one person organize their finances, you've impacted nearly 5 lives, right? And those 5 lives, the decisions that this person makes, the person whose finances you've helped organize makes around their finances, has a profound impact on the trajectory of their lives. And so what we think, so we've helped over 100,000 people in Uganda, but that's, if you look at the impact, that's nearly 500,000 people, and we have not started at all.
Wow.
We haven't started at all. And so that is really, really important to sort of have in perspective. And so we tend to think that we can directly help 20 million people up and down the continent directly. But the impact of helping those 20 million people will be 5 times that.
Wow.
And that will be our contribution to the continent. Xeno has the top layer, which is the advisor, right? But the underlying, how you act on that, the advice you get, or how you act on the plan, because the plan is typically put 10% in money markets, 60% in bonds, or 10% in domestic or regional equities, maybe 20% in international equities. So that's the plan. So to execute on that plan, you actually need, we execute it using a Xeno money market fund, a Xeno bond fund, a Xeno equity fund, a Xeno regional fund. And so what happens is people don't explicitly select those funds. They select a plan and it is automatically allocated across those funds, right? And so again, because it is a framework, the framework is how much should I put in short-term money markets, how much should I put in medium to long-term, how much should I put in equities. Most people don't have the training, the experience, or the education, or even the time to sort of determine that allocation. So this is what the algorithm, this is what the technology does.
So you do that using the system
to
make decision on behalf of this.
Yes. And so every time, you don't have to worry every time, oh, where do I put this 10,000? Oh, where do I put this 1 million? Oh, where do I put this 50,000? It's automatically set. It's just, do you have 5,000 now? Do you have 500 now? Do you have 50,000 now? It's automatically set. And all of that goes towards the target that you're chasing. So risk, and this is really where we excel, because goal-based investment is really about understanding an individual's circumstances and then recomposing that into a financial objective, inferring a risk tolerance attached to that objective, not to the person, but attached to the objective. And then composing an asset allocation, which is an investment plan to meet that objective while staying within the constraints that you've learned from a person's. So goal-based investment, at least our execution, focuses on minimizing the risk that you will not have the money to meet your financial objective, right? And so that is, everything is really focused, and this is how the algorithms are rigged, to minimize the risk that you will not have the resources to meet your financial obligations that fall in the future.
So it's almost accurate.
Yes, it is. Yeah. So so to minimize, so there might be some slippage, but we do everything to reduce that risk. And so they are obviously what we call market risks.
Yes.
Right? That are inherent, that are a feature, a structure of the underlying assets. But by having, so how we mitigate against that is by having a portfolio perspective. Because if you only have one asset, if it rises, you rise with it. If it falls, you fall with it. However, if you compose your portfolio across a group of assets, if this one goes down, if this one goes up, and this one is, the average, you end up here. If this goes down, it is averaged up by what is this. So all the while, you're somewhere in the middle, regardless of what happens to each of them individually. Unless the world goes bonkers, there's World War III, where everything crashes to the ground.
It's basically spreading the risk.
Yeah, which is essentially spreading the risk in order to minimize the impact that the negative impact that might come from just one single asset failure. So our emphasis again is on having a portfolio perspective and constructing in such a way that it minimizes the possibility of you not meeting your financial obligations if you do A, B, C, D, E, F. Yeah, so I'll take it from the perspective of Eastern Africa.
Yeah.
When you think about Africa, most of Africa's population is on that Eastern bloc. Nigeria is a freak. Like countries in and around Nigeria. Nigeria has so many people, etc. But countries in and around it are very small.
Yeah.
Like most of Africa's population is on this Eastern bloc. So Nigeria's, Uganda, Tanzania, Kenya, and countries in and around them, this is essentially Africa's future. And so being able to participate and play in this market and help to build it. Right now, we are living in a future somebody dreamt of 100 years ago, 200 years ago. They wished to live in such a society, and they put in the work, whether or not they are here to enjoy that, the fruit of that work. So we are each called upon again, and will be called upon again to shape the future. So to the extent that we can shape the future of some of the most exciting set of people, some living in one of the youngest continents that is going to power global growth over the next 100 years, this is really exciting for me. And the reception where we are getting interest, inbound interest from all sorts of customers, up and down the country, not only Nairobi, but up and down the country. This essentially gives me a signal that we might be onto something within this region that will shape the trajectory of this continent, if not the world. Yeah, absolutely. So again, I'm very bullish on East Africa for the aforementioned reasons. Excellent population, population growth, excellent weather. We're sitting outside. There are not very many people, very many places in the continent where you can have an interview outside comfortably. But also the relatively liberal economies, relatively liberal in the sense that foreign direct investment can easily come in and out. And so, and then there's quite a bit of focus on now leveraging technology to give us that great leap. And lots of governments are basically giving incentives or creating accommodating policies, accommodating environment for people to innovate. Innovation doesn't necessarily only have to come out of Silicon Valley or some far-flung place like that, but we have in ourselves. There's a talented pool of people here that are decently educated relative to many places in the world and can give any person anywhere in the world a run for their money. And now looking inward and saying, how can we leverage this that we have and maybe layer on capital and invest in the communities that are going to actually power the future of this continent. And so when you look at East Africa, great growth story, young population, relatively educated, forward-looking government. Where else would you want to build? Yeah, there's so much to build. And so yes, we are keen on Rwanda, we are keen on Tanzania, we are very keen on Ethiopia as well. So that is in about 3.5 years. And so we will be present in at least 4 countries. We will be serving over 1 million users. And remember the factor of 5, we will be impacting over 5 million lives. That is where we will be.
How much is the company managing today, as of today?
The company is just managing just over $17 million in assets under management.
Projection during that period?
No. More than 10 times that, actually 100 times that.
You think that is possible?
That's possible. We are on a path.
Wow.
Yes, we're on a path. We're on a path. And I would like you to check on us 1 year now on this same program and see. I'm happy to sort of go over this again. Yeah.
What is driving that confidence? And
first of all, our geographical footprint is going to be much broader than it is right now. And then we have an acceleration in the markets where we are, besides counting those new markets as well.
Yeah.
So we will do, and we will go faster because with all the building blocks are in place.
Yeah.
All the building blocks are in place. We've spent so many years building the fundamentals. So what we spent these past 7 years doing is not really chasing customers. It's just building the underlying infrastructure that then can allow us to. There was no point on investing in marketing, investing in user acquisition or expansion without a firm foundation. And so that's what we've looked.
You just scratch the surface. Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to that. And I want to be part of this journey. I want to tell you a
Please do.
story
Let's
more.
do a yearly check-in. More than happy. And I'll speak as candidly as we have done now.
Yeah, because for you to make those 7 years to date, I think you've been doing something right and impacting lives.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And I know we are coming to a close of this conversation, but we'll continue talking more in the future. And thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much for listening in, and I really, really look forward to working with you. If you'd like, download the app. It's on both stores, Xeno Investment, that's Xeno, Xeno Investment. Please download it or visit our YouTube channel, visit our website, myxeno.com.
Thank you
All
so
right,
much.
thank you so much.
It was a pleasure.
Really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah.